So I have a confession. I'm not your typical environmentalist. I've spent essentially my career working for women's rights, working for the most poor and marginalized communities around the planet. And I have spent a lot of time talking to poor people, and in the past, say, 6, 7 years, so many of those people have said, you know what, we don't know when to plant our crops anymore. We don't know when to harvest our crops. And the world's food is largely grown through rain-fed agriculture. So this climate change thing was actually contributing to increasing poverty and increasing crisis. And I started really getting my head around this climate change thing and realized, actually, this is probably the most difficult, but if not the most important issue of our generation. And so Greenpeace actually came calling at my door. And I said, but wait a minute, I don't come from the environmental movement. They said, but we get that. We actually, we're looking for some new leadership. So I joined them about a year and a half ago. And it's a pretty interesting value proposition that Greenpeace gives to you when they ask you to come and work for them, particularly here in Canada. So, Joanna, we're going to give you less of the salary that you've already been getting. You're going to be, your phone's probably going to be bugged. You're most definitely going to be on the RCMP list, and chances are you're going to be arrested. Are you in? I'm in. And one of the things that, of course, that we get labeled by most certainly the media is this notion of being radical or too radical. But I like to remind everybody that the root of the word radical is radix, and what does radix actually mean is by the roots. And if ever there was a moment where we have to change the world by its roots, this is it. So Greenpeace is a global brand, it's a global organization, but it was born not so very far away from here. A group of hippies in 1971 in Vancouver set out to create an organization that was built on a very powerful theory of change. And that theory of change is really based on 3 concepts. One, it's bearing witness. And we do that through peaceful confrontation, nonviolent direct action. The second is plant a mind bomb. And so planting a mind bomb, it's perhaps 30 years ahead of what going viral is today. Planting a mind bomb is that evocative, emotional, that moment where something, an image, is forced into your brain that changes your consciousness and changes your consciousness forever. Now, I know there's some sports fans in this audience, so I guess if the 2015 Super Bowl was a mind bomb, that last 20 seconds when the rookie intercepted right at the very end, that came out of nowhere, it was perfect timing, it was a game changer. And so this photo here, this tells the story through a mind bomb, this tiny little dinghy of wackily brave, courageous individuals set their minds to take on a Russian whaling ship. And through their cameras and the power of the media, they were able to capture the photos and the images of the ship blasting a harpoon off of its bow, hitting a whale, and at that moment, the whale dying in the ocean, and that image went viral. And that was really the launching of Greenpeace, where then literally thousands upon thousands of supporters joined the organization. And so here we are now, in 40 nations, this kind of cult following. And in Canada, like in so many parts of the world, we're not a charity. We don't have charitable status. We have 80,000 financial supporters here in Canada. They give us their membership, and enabling us to be independent. We don't take money from corporations. We don't take money from governments. And that's a really key piece of our ability to speak truth to power. I want to show you this video. It's really kind of our epic narrative. So there's a real tension as well in our brand, in that right now we are an organization and our supporters want to be part of something about the solution, about for a better world. But the tension in our brand is that we actually have to also be against those that are standing in our way. And the media loves to play off this tension. They always want to portray us as the radicals, those that are standing in the way of progress. But if anything, our supporters, our following, our staff, our volunteers want to be able to portray something about a future that is sunny. And so we realize, of course, that we can't actually do this transformation into solutions without bringing along millions and millions of people. So we have, had a fair amount of victories over the years that actually can demonstrate, that can prove that we are about solutions, that we can be bringing about change. A lot of people might know about some of our strategies, our tactics around culture jamming, about influencing brands. This is just November. where we were able to get Best Buy to stop sourcing the paper for their flyers from unsustainable forests. You might have seen this write-up in Fast Company, but this was based on a video and a campaign. This video's been seen by about 7 million people globally. And it's kind of a complicated story, but Shell wants to drill in the Arctic. We can't actually afford any company to be drilling in the Arctic because we actually don't have the technology to clean up a spill in the Arctic. Meanwhile, Shell is in partnership with Lego, or Lego's in partnership with Shell. Lego has a toy that is an oil rig that's branded by Shell. And so kids get to play with an oil rig that plays in the Arctic. So the viral video, "Everything is Not Awesome," is of the Lego toy and little polar bears and little Lego people drowning in oil to the sound of "Everything is Awesome." Of course, when we went out on the streets throughout the world over the summer, talking to parents and to kids, the beloved brand of Lego, as we all know, people couldn't believe that anybody could be against Lego, and we weren't. But we were trying to undermine the social license of Shell through Lego, and it worked. Lego dumped their partnership with Shell. Similarly, we were able to get Ken to dump Barbie through our campaign on Mattel. We were able to get Kit Kat to stop sourcing their palm oil from Indonesia. We were able to stop the whale hunt in Japan. Clear Cut campaign, Kleenex, Kimberly-Clark, a very famous Greenpeace campaign where we were able to get them after 5 years to stop sourcing their paper from boreal forests and old-growth forests. And now Kimberly-Clark is one of our best allies, and they work very, very closely with us to influence other companies. Asia Pulp and Paper, Levi's getting toxics out of their clothing, Head and Shoulders to also get palm oil out of their dandruff shampoo, KFC. And so here we are now at this moment where we are really wanting to work with many more of our supporters and many more of our companies to go from opposing into proposing. You know, we've heard many companies who've said, you know, yes, Greenpeace, we like to meet with you because, frankly, we'd rather be at your table than on your menu. And maybe that's why some of you are in this room. I have no idea. But you know, the power of our following and our brand to really turn renegade companies into green, profitable brands is really the proposition. But we also want to go about changing some of the myths about all of the apocalyptic futures that are out there. You know, the way that we are all moving into the shared economy, that the renewable revolution is really upon us, that we actually can have sustainable forests, sustainable oceans. We actually can have strong economies and strong environment. And we really want to build it based on this incredible ingredient of hope for our followers. So this next video is really now our origin story. This is our new model for Greenpeace.
There is a ball of fire growing and rising above the clouds and smoke of the explosion. This mushroom cloud is certain death to any living thing which approaches too close to its edge.
I was born in 1971 when, thanks to people like you, Greenpeace first set sail to prevent nuclear testing.
The most dramatic attack on whaling in recent years has come from the Greenpeace Foundation. Its small volunteer navy launches rubber boats into the midst of the whaling fleets, trying to disrupt the hunt and save the whales.
I was born in 1982, when Greenpeace and people like you stopped commercial whaling.
nací en 1993, cuando Greenpeace y gente como tú prohibieron los desechos radioactivos en los océanos.
I was born in 2002, when Greenpeace and people like you stopped illegal logging of mahogany in the Amazon.
Mon fils est né en 2012, année où Greenpeace et les personnes comme vous ont convaincu les grandes entreprises technologiques à abandonner le charbon. Clean air!
Clean air!
My granddaughter was born this year.
So we're now really trying to root our story in new power, right? We're actually trying to challenge old power. And as you guys will know in this room, old power is very terrified about new power. Because old power is about command and control. New power is about uploading and sharing, right? And, you know, there's fewer gatekeepers. It's about giving away the kind of power that is going to unleash a better world. And so, you know, our efforts are to push that power out through hope, through creativity, through inspiration. And part of it really comes about the fact that we realized that while we had won many, many battles, we're actually losing the war. We're losing the war. We're losing the battle for this planet, right? And so we can no longer actually transform the planet the way that we need for the future of our children without actually inspiring 1 billion acts of courage. And so that is truly our philosophy right now, that this 1 billion acts of courage will spark a brighter tomorrow. And so that actually requires a massive internal transformation that has been going on, but it's one that I'm putting a huge amount of effort into my own organization. Because as you know, the culture of organizations is actually the only way that you're going to be able to create that kind of content. So it has meant me completely changing my senior leadership team. It's been so that I have a much more diffuse leadership team across the organization. It means that I'm now hiring far more volunteer organizers. It means that I am now rewarding risk and risk-taking. It means that we're trying to honor the simple acts of our supporters so that they don't feel like they have to scale the CN Tower as a courageous act, but to go and visit a member of parliament or sign a petition could be just enough. It's about listening to people. It's about using new data. It's about using value-based segmentation. We have a quick rule in our organization where we segment Canadians by 3 ways in which they drink coffee. They go to independent coffee houses, they go to Starbucks, or they go to Tim Hortons. And I mean, some of us go to all 3, but we need to be able to find ways to connect to independent coffee houses, which we know so well, but much more about connecting with those who see themselves as Starbuckers and Tim Hortonites. And so, storytelling is essentially, you know, so key to how we're going to inspire those 1 billion acts of courage. And, you know, there's 3 basic commandments for us, and I've heard it also throughout this conference. The first, of course, is telling the truth. And I truly believe that vulnerability and authenticity is the new currency of today. The second, of course, is be interesting. And if you're not interesting, nobody will pay attention. It won't matter. And the third is to really live the truth. Be the mentor. For us now, we used to see ourselves as the heroes. Now it's our supporters. It's people out there. It's people like you who are the heroes. We can only be mentors, but we can only model through our mentorship. We can only show and we cannot tell. So my last thing to say to you all here, it's really a challenge to some of the most beloved brands that are at this conference. I just hope we can all be part of the solution. There are things that I wish I didn't know today that I know about really what is happening to our environment, to people around the world. You can tell I'm still passionate, I'm still emotional about it. And you know, we can't really shut our eyes to what's happening out there, but we can actually be courageous. We could actually do something different and do something about it. If there's one thing that I hope about me coming to this event, is that there is ways in which Greenpeace can turn our cult following to also be your cult following. Go out, be audacious, and be courageous. The world is waiting. Thanks.